Thanks.
Thank you very much, Professor Han, for your presentation. What I've captured is the changes that we have experienced due to the COVID-19 pandemic in our lives. It has really changed our lives. Now we are all virtual. Sometimes back we used to wait for Srini to jump into Kenya so that we can have a cup of coffee and help him even in the presentation of our design conference. But now we are all virtual. Last year we also did a virtual conference, NIDEC 2020, and it's something that we had planned physically. So it's a big change in our life. Also, you have shown some changes in the education sector, which I am in, and we have really experienced a big change in the way we teach design, in the way we evaluate design, and the practice that they get from outside. You have also presented the aspect of information acquisition. We used to depend so much with where we work. Then we came home, you have to look for information by your own, by interacting with other people online and using more videos rather than the way we were interacting physically. And I like the way you have presented problem solving to the new challenges. As one of the earlier speakers has said, we don't wait for problems to come to us as designers. We go and solve problems. And a very good presentation of how you are trying to solve problems there in China concerning the COVID-19. Now I'll go to our panelists from Srini, and then we'll go to Juliet, and then to Shiko. From your experience, what has changed in terms of the design trends that we usually are used to?
Thank you, Michael. First of all, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. And I wish it was in person, but digital is fine. So we could go to many places in the same day. That's the benefit of being in the COVID scenario. I think having lived with the COVID for more than a year, the world is slowly coming out of the fear factor. First was a shock. We did not know what to do. But at the same time, we had to, as individuals, because companies did not know what to do, and as individuals, as designers, or architects, or as software guys, or even a postal worker or a store worker. So we first had to take care of our families. We had to be staying safe. And then that phase went over, and then we started learning more about the pandemic, and also started thinking, well, this is not going to go away anytime soon. So once we knew that, so we were using the luxury of time with us. Previously it was very difficult to meet or do some programs or products, but now you had the time. You can't say I'm busy, because what are you doing? You're doing nothing. You're sitting at home. So we had more time, and that time is what the people have used to think of more and more innovative way. The design thinking that we are talking about has come into our own process, even at the non-designer level. And that is the influence that this disease has given to us as a humankind. So basically, we have seen in our, around the globe, as a global organization, people from all walks of life have taken the initiative to come up with a different way of solving the day-to-day problems. And then came with the companies trying to see what else could be done. You're muted, Michael. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Srini. Juliet?
Hi, everyone. And I just want to say thank you to Design Kenya for organizing this amazing event and this beautiful platform. And again, to be able to talk about design with global designers, and just keep it relevant to the African continent and kind of the challenges that we have here. Now, in terms of design trends, I think we can all agree that the moment the idea of the pandemic sat within us in that sense of this is more permanent than we expected it to be. We moved from the kind of, okay, let's just hunker down and bear through it, to that kind of movement into panic, self-preservation, and what solutions can I come up with my existing tools. And this was prior to that understanding that, okay, things are going to have to shift quickly. And I think there's merit to be had in understanding the global psyche in that particular moment, that realization that this is more permanent than it is. And instinctively, as human beings, within our very nature, the idea of self-preservation is inherent, but it also translates into a more organic way that design thinking is very inherently entrenched in. So the concept of design thinking has a terminology around it, but it really is instinctual. And that's how we can have people who are not designers, they're not trained as designers, to come up with solutions that serve them best. I think the best, one of a couple of things that we discovered when we were looking at solutions on the African continent is the designs that came out of West Africa, I think was specifically Ghana, in trying to come up with product designs that can disseminate clean water in villages that don't have clean water. What if you're in a situation where you can't turn on a tap and water comes out of it in order to clean your hands, in order to be sanitary? What are those design solutions? Is it engineering? Is it instincts? Is it, we are inherently creative humans, whether you have gone to school for it. And I think that is the design trend. It is, what do we need now? It's more instinctual, it's more self-reliant, it's more self-dependent, it's more caring and empathetic. And a lot of solutions are a result of that.
Thank you, Juliet. Shiro, we are asking what is your experience, what are the changes in the design trends that you've experienced? Is she in the room? All right, I'll just go ahead. With the changes that we have experienced, what is the most significant change that you have done in your company, in your practice, due to this COVID-19? Srini?
I think, I have two, since I run two things. One is a WDO and Lumium, my own company. At my own company, so what we did was, we actually came up with a solution, because people were coming with the PPE and the mask and all that stuff, so which we're all doing at home for our own use. But from a commercial point of view, so we quickly came with the idea, we just looked around what's the best way to do, especially, for countries like in India and Asia. So we came with the product, we call it UVO, UVO, it's there on our website. So which was, just like a microwave. It's most of the time people were having no sanitizers. It was not available, and people were rushing to get this little bottle, and the prices were shooting up because of a demand supply situation. So we came up with the solution, which is like a microwave, and it's using the UVC technology to cleanse any of the objects, including food packets, as well as cell phones or little iPhones and stuff like that. So this will anywhere between 1 minute to 7 minutes, depending on the object and the density of the object. So we came up with a product. Within like 3 months, we were able to put that product into the market. Like we started in end of March, because that's when everybody was shutting down, the airports were closing, and the world was feeling the impact of COVID. And we started selling the product by early July timeframe. And that was one product. And then there were variations of that, which we could use in the car. And we also have something that we can use in a bank, where they want, you bring cash from somewhere else, it could be contaminated. Whereas, the bank can be, giving notes that are cleansed, in a UV scenario. So that was a pretty good product. On the WDO side, we felt that communication design was lacking. A lot of people, even in the US, people supposed to be knowing things, they're all well educated. And we felt that there was a lack of communication. So under my WDO role, so I just started a World Design Organization's design challenge with IBM and Design for America. So we had 350 designers from across the world in 21 teams going over a 2-week day in and day out to come back with multiple levels of design, how we can communicate to the communities that are within us. Don't look at a solution in Nairobi sitting in San Jose, but bring people in Nairobi to say, what would you do in your community? What would you do in Wuhan? What would you do in Mumbai or Singapore or wherever? So I think that was a great, great success. And we came up with 30 solutions, within a 2-week period because 300 people are working on it. That's the power of design. You could just come back and, well, some of them are, really, they took off to the next thing. And the beauty of this design challenge, Michael, was we said anything and everything that is being done is free IP. Anybody can take it. Those who are not in the challenge, like for example, you or Juliet, anybody can take those ideas and put it on your society, because we wanted people to use these solutions. The power of design should be reaching to the common man. And that was another, I'm so proud that, that was one of the things that we quickly did in the month of, April and May, because, we were really quick out of the gate and we did that. And then following that, we did many design challenges with the other factor that we found during COVID was that the violence against women and children were on the rise, because these men folk were sitting at home, not going to work, and they get very irritated because they can't go to a game or they can't go to a bar or they can't go to whatever. So that was really having an impact on women and children. They have no right to be aggressive, but that's what we found out during our surveys that we did in the community. And we worked with UN Women to create another set of beautiful solutions that will prevent. And this is something that, mostly in communication design, right? You don't know when somebody is going to beat somebody, right? But we're going to tell the people saying, hey, this is the best way to keep peace at home, So that was another challenge that we did.
Thank you, Srini. Shiro, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome. That's Shiro. We're discussing your experiences or the changes that you have experienced due to the COVID-19 pandemic as a designer in Kenya.
Where do we start? First of all, it's excellent to be here. I don't know if you can see my screen, my new screen, right?
Yes, you can.
Yes, so that picture is this morning at the Mishoki Park. It's in Nairobi. It's all about green spaces now and being sustainable. So what we've had to do as a business is look at our environment and how we operate as businesses. So I'm in the business of design and manufacturing, but what does that mean? We have to also adopt to the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is about responsible design production. So not only are we relooking at the materials we're using, we predominantly used wood, but now we're looking at being responsible, not cutting trees. So what does that mean? We have to start innovating our own building material. We have to be responsible with our environments, looking at different greening within our businesses. So that cannot be alone. At the back, you can see a white cushion with some sort of dimensions on it. We're also using technology to pivot. No longer are people wanting to walk into a store. So we're doing our first augmented reality retail app in Africa, where you can literally hold your phone or your gadget up. Once you've downloaded our app, click the product. So that's a cushion with our new motif under Fun Homes. And you can place it into an environment, see what you like, change the color, everything. So now we've pivoted, we're including technology, so it can be more of an experience wherever you are in the world, you can interact with our product, whether you're in Nairobi, in Bangkok. You don't have to come into a physical store. And once you select and like it, we can actually ship it to you. We're also launching a physical but experiential space that will be from the 6th and the 7th of March. We have an open house. Again, it's not in a mall. It's considering social distancing. We're going to have plants, but not just because of decor, but because we're committed to protecting the environment. So as designers and manufacturers, we've now included the environment and technology in what we do. And we're hoping to bring our customers, both locally and internationally, into this new world of ours.
Thank you very much, Shiro, and welcome to the panel. We had lost you a bit. I'll go back to Julia. There's something interesting you mentioned about design thinking and how it's coming in to play a critical role in the community. Especially during this pandemic. We had this talk before in January, and the key issue with designers here in Kenya, they're complaining about the new people, right, who have gained design skills during this pandemic. You know, I was working in a restaurant, I was fired, I came home, I discovered I have a computer, now I can edit photos. How do we now tap into that community of people who are now using design as a side hustle?
I think it's, thank you for that, Michael. And again, it's proving the point that when our backs are against the wall and we actually need to, take care of ourselves, take care of our families, take care of our communities, we find a way. Now, whether it's through photo editing, whether it's picking up a design skill, these are traits that are quite common in third world countries. We have that attitude of we're not going to sit down and wait for someone to come save us. We are very self-reliant. If something's going wrong, we come up with a solution quickly. And I think it's something that's quite admirable. I've had discussions with lecturers who are based in Sri Lanka, lecturers who are based on the continent, people who are in the industry, and they kind of reiterates this theme of how in a community that has experienced consistent suffering per se are very resilient. And within that resilience is inherent creativity. So how do we tap into that market? Well, social media. Who are these new people? What are they doing? Do they have access to broader networks? And I think that quality in someone to be able to sit back and say, I'm not going to sit down, I'm going to, reach out for what I need. Those are qualities that we need in our designers. These are qualities that we need in our policymakers, in our governments, with people who are making decisions about our everyday lives, especially within this pandemic. I mean, anything to deal with health affects the human psyche, it affects human creativity. So in reaching out to these designers, yes, we have to. Social media is a great platform, access to conversations like this, networking globally via Zoom meetings is quite a great way to reach out. What used to take us months to prepare for one seminar is now taking us 1 month to prepare for 4. Online talks. I mean, there are people on this who are listening to me right now that, I'm looking at the names and, what they do, and I'm going, oh, I need to contact this person after this. And it's mind blowing that we never did this before. And again, it's that get down and get things done attitude that Africans and most people in third world countries are known for, and what the rest of the world is needing right now.
Thank you very much. I'll go back to Professor Han. He's so passionate about design education. And I think I will pick lessons from him as well, because I'm here in Kenya as an educator. This is my third year, actually. And it's interesting how we interact with students. Professor Han, what are these major trends that you see will go with forward in terms of design education? For example, you've given the aspect of using your product design knowledge to solve the immediate issue affecting the society, as you have shown in your videos with COVID-19. Usually like giving students, if I'm teaching product, I'll tell them design something that looks nice. But now, we want even our students to be in the forefront in terms of churning solutions immediately for their societies. What are these changes that we see forward?
Yes, I think thank you for the question. And I think the most challenge is that the students didn't got so much real design, real produce experiences. So in the teaching period, we involved many other stakeholders like the designers in companies and even some other partners of my personal design projects. So and I also want to say something a little about the trend because now in 2020 I have designed for 5 projects. It's mainly about the products and service for the online signing, because now in China, online signing, broadcasting signing is really a great, let's say, great trend. So there are many companies, they want their products, it's really good to sell online. So it's also, what I want to say is that it's also a chance for our educators to involve more resources into the class. And just like this meeting, we know so many professors because we got this new online technologies. So I think for African students, because I got, I think 10 students from Africa, they are postgraduates and doctoral. I think there are no difference between Chinese students, Indian students, and the African students. The only difference is the context and the scenarios, and the most difference is what you want to design for, who you want to design for. So I think we can share in the coming days if we got some chance. We can communicate with how to using that kind of design thinking framework, and even we got some real design cases we can do together. And so thank you. And another thing is that I need to go now because there are 4 people waiting for me to go into the car. I'm driving to the highway for 6 hours. Thank you for waiting for so long time, especially Sereni and Juliet. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. See you
Good to
later.
have you.
Bye.
And we'll keep the conversations going, and we will contact you on future endeavors in terms of design education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. See you later, guys.
I'll throw the same question to Srini because you sit in I believe you sit in education boards at different universities. What are those changes that we need to see in the education sector?
First of all, even without the pandemic, one of the worst scenarios for universities is having the best faculty. And these are, 2 different curves, right? On one hand, the need for designers have gone up globally because people have realized, thanks to the Apples and Samsungs and all the Airbnb and this kind of similar companies, they all have realized the value of design in business. So today, if you want to raise money, you're not going to get money if you don't show design as a strategy for your product, period. I say this because I'm not only on the universities, but I'm also on the Silicon Valley, where we're raising money, and that's in the typical ecosystem of startups. So having said that, the designer, you and I can start a design college tomorrow. We can find a university, we can just go to a university and say, I'm going to start a design school within your university. University will lap it up because they think, design is going to make money. But the problem for you is, and then the poor students, they join because it's very close to you. And I don't know, in many countries, the students don't get to decide. The parents get to decide because they write checks for the fees. Still, right? Especially, I mean, maybe in the Western countries like US and, maybe in Europe, some of the advanced countries, the students themselves have to find ways to get money for education. But majority of the people in Asia, in India, and other African countries, the parents are still footing the bill. So obviously, you need to convince your parent to get into a good school. Okay, we got into a good school, but then we don't. So they always look at who is the faculty. So that's your bigger challenge today. And I'm sitting on the board of few universities, both in India as well as in China. I'm also an adjunct professor of industrial design for Chongji University. So I know the challenges of getting the right people. Why? I mean, it's a myriad of problems, right? The universities don't pay the teachers adequate amount as salaries. I'm sorry to say if there are some university deans or directors, I'm sorry, but that's a fact. We don't pay the teachers good enough because as a designer, he or she has got a much larger potential to make money if they step out and do some design work. Most of the teachers, I would say 90% of the teachers are teaching not because of money, but they're teaching because of the passion. So COVID or no COVID, this is one of our challenges. So I think that's what we need to do. And during the times of COVID, what really happens was majority of the teachers, especially in the design, can you imagine teaching materials or color online? It's like almost sending you a Pantone's, a catalog to you as a freshman student, coming into the, you want to be an undergrad and you're first year student, you got a lot of dreams and lofty ideas, you came from high school to join an undergrad first year and you are given a nice little, color palette. So those were some of the challenges. So teachers themselves, what I suggested to the couple of universities where I'm on the advisory board is to literally send them those color palettes and have the teacher have a similar palette. I mean, we have seen, again, very, very creative, right? Supposing if I have to give you a trophy today in an event, I'm going to give you a trophy because you won the product award. So what I do is I just create the trophy in my hand and I already pre-send it to you. When I'm going to hand over to you and you just take it. That's what we have changed, our approach to education. So that's the first thing we need to do is teach the teachers how they can do this in an online scenario, because majority of the teachers, even in very highly advanced cities and colleges, do not know how to teach online certain subjects, right? This is not your English grammar or something. When you're talking about design and design research, especially you want to show them how to do woodworking or glass blowing or some of those things is not easy. Most of the people have lost 1 year which they don't know today. It's kind of kept okay, no problem, we are we're teaching you, but the teaching pace is very, very slow. So it will take time. We have to understand that it will take time. We can't be rushing into it.
Thank you very much. For some of us, we are teaching interior design online. So I relate with you when you say palettes. Huh? And sometimes you have to share your screen to show them, demonstrate something on CAD, computer design. Yeah, and some of them, they have to use their phones because they don't have the laptops. It's a big challenge. And it's interesting that it cuts across the globe. I thought it's in Africa alone.
No, it's everywhere. Even see, for example, you want to see on the YouTube, right? Let's say you look at fashion design, right? I know another school which is teaching fashion design, but they were able to send the entire students, 40 students, a sewing machine and a whole kit, to do the threading and everything else. But now the teacher is saying, okay, let's show you how to sew this particular piece, but then the internet is not stable. Then you lose those pieces which are very critical in terms of, you're cutting it, using a particular template. It's very challenging. It's not easy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're going on.
Sorry, I'll shift a bit from education into industry. Shiro, you're in the industry, and even following from your social media, you really changed a lot in terms of the product that you are working on, the kind of approach that you are working on. So I would ask you, how has this impacted the industry, the design industry, both positively and negatively? And what do you think the future holds for this industry?
Thank you for that. I believe strongly that the future involves designers getting involved with how products are actually made. I believe in theory, but there's something called practice, because we don't design just because it looks good. We design products to be used by predominantly humans, right? So there's no point. I keep saying it's amazing if it looks beautiful, but so what, right? We need, from the continent of Africa, strongly, I believe we need more designers who actually manufacture as well. If you even look at interior architects, what we do, we design, right? Then you've designed an amazing home or office, but you don't even think about the materials that need to build the thing. Therefore, then the costing. If you take a bill of quantities, for example, yes, you've designed a thing and then a BQ is done, but 90% of the product is not made by us on the continent. So we keep struggling as designers. Door handles, I'll use like women, for example. The bathrooms we design are so small, like the bathtubs. And I mean it, our hips don't fit in those bathtubs because they're not designed by us. Someone else, it's true, the toilets we sit on, you know, if you lift the seat as a man, right, to do what you need to do, it's fantastic. But you find a lot of offices, they actually remove the seat because it's not comfortable. We find the hole a bit too small. We need to be using design following function, but designed by us. That's when we get vibrancy in the industry again. If you look at the pandemic, our borders were closed for a long time, right? Shipping containers were stuck, yet designers are still there. Why didn't we design for ourselves and then make the things? If you look at agricultural inputs, okay, we discovered the other day, we're doing some landscaping somewhere. So I'm also a landscaper now. So we're doing some landscaping somewhere and we're using what is called a panga, right? Like a big knife, so to speak. And it comes from South Africa. I almost collapsed. Are you telling me we don't have blacksmiths? And then I don't know if you know what a slasher is, the one that we all use in the village to slash. It's a metal flat thing with two sharper blades on the other side. Again, imported. Are you kidding me, designers? We can't even design a slasher. I don't know how we're going to design a drone, and I don't mean it badly, right? Some of our products are like a bicycle table, standing table. Again, the entire bicycle we know as a black mamba that is in most of our streets in Africa is imported. Good people, can we not even just design a black mamba? What is happening? Let's go back to basic design as well. Design bathtubs that my hips can fit in, toilets my hips can fit in, toilet cubicles, right? We are not designing for us. Even underwear, if you look at our fashion industry, underwear is imported. Why? Why? It's for the wrong climate. We need cotton, basic cotton for our environment. We are not using our creative abilities. It's okay to see what the West is doing in developed countries. It's fantastic, but our needs on the continent are still so basic. Let's just make something that propels just by energy, our own kinetic. You don't even need to put an engine first, okay? Let's start there. And that's how designers link up with industry, can start industry, and that's how we're actually going to create jobs. Designers, we need to stop thinking in isolation as we are so amazing, we are so good. No, design for the people where the shoe is hurting, please. And that's why I manufacture. I design and manufacture because that's the only way we scale as a continent and create jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting. No excuses. Juliet, would you like to pick on the same point?
So it's two things. What Sereni said about design education, how you teach design. A lecturer from one of the universities here in South Africa stated that at some point when South Africa went into its first lockdown, you couldn't have access to any shops. So the students had visual diaries, and then they ran out of paper because you can't buy paper. So how are you going to draw concepts? How are you going to keep on creating vignettes and, you know, engaging in the design process without paper? So what the lecturers did, they told them, whatever cereal boxes you have, tear them open and use that and collect all of them. And it was so fascinating. At the end of the year, I had an opportunity to invigilate these design students. And they had, you know, visual diaries and then like stacks of cardboard paper, brown sugar paper, like just kind of opened up with these beautiful sketches. So where there's a will, there is a way, always. So that's the aspect of design education. What I love that Shiro said, and it's something that I can relate to also as an interior architect, is designing for Africans. We are not the average on any scale. We are the most beautiful, the tallest, the most curvaceous, the most vibrant. We are on the full spectrum of what anthropometrics, the standard anthropometrics were taught in school. I remember looking at those kind of anthropometrics and ergonomic scales and going, but I'm taller than what they're saying the average woman is. And there's several women in this room that are that. My environment does not support what is proclaimed to be fact. And I think the promotion of local manufacturing, the encouraging of encouraging craftspeople as we know them on the African continent, and encouraging them within their craft and working hand in hand, as I think one of the panelists said in the earlier panel, that if designers and craftspeople work hand in hand, the products that we design will be local. The products that we design will have local solutions. They're more socially responsible. They're more environmentally responsible, because a craftsperson has a knowledge of indigenous products that maybe a designer who went to whatever lofty design school you went to and studied the standards, but not necessarily local materiality, would understand. I'm imagining myself being able to work hand in hand with the local craftsperson to produce a chair. Now, a chair is one of the most complex things to design. It might seem quite simple, but there's so many variations to that. How tall are we? How tall is the average human now in 2020? With the evolution of man, we are still evolving. What are the standards? What are the comfort levels? I am now working from home every day. What does my home office look like? Do I have a home office? Do I have access to that? Do I use a laptop, a computer, a phone to teach design, to talk about design? How do I maintain my health and my comfort within that space? And Shiro, you just got me with that idea that unless we really tap into who we are as a culture, as a people, the vibrancy that we portray when we talk, when we walk, what people admire about our cultures is lost within the banality of standardized design. So this affects how we teach design. This affects how we teach teachers to teach design. This affects how the design education, discipline and the design practitioner discipline, there's a gap, and we need to bridge that gap. Practitioners need to work hand in hand with educators to show students what's actually happening out there. You get interns that graduate from university who have no real world experience. And I often challenge educators and say, then what are you teaching them? Why is there such a massive gap between a graduate and a first-year practitioner? Why is there still more training happening? So I think it's bridging that gap between education and practice. It's fully understanding our vibrancy as a people, our inherent creativity, and applauding that and putting that on the forefront of what we may deem to be African design, what we may then in a broader sense call contextual design.
Very deep conversation. Asrini, you would like to take the same? The future.
I think Shiro is raising her hand, so you might want to just ask her,
Shiro?
and then I can come back. Yeah.
All right, Shiro.
Sorry, just to piggyback on what Juliet has rightly said. So there's also crafts people becoming industrialists. I don't see why we don't see ourselves also becoming industrialists, because those crafts that we keep talking about Africans making become industries. Everybody wears jewelry around the world. Everybody wears textiles. So we need to stop and maybe change the terminologies we use for the things Africans make from crafts to actual industry. That's how we'll create jobs. The other thing I hope the design schools will start adding is this thing we called material science. Most designers have no idea about the design, the materials they specify and how they're made. In Africa right now, there's a big talk about sustainability, the circular economy, actually from a global context, right? We need to start including modules like that in our design schools, because banana fiber, sisal, bamboo are amazing, but somehow our designers are not even aware of this. So when they come out into industry, they don't specify products to be made out of this. So could we also include a lot of this? Education must pivot with the world and industry. And I really, really thank Juliet for what she was saying. It needs to be practical. I wish there's modules where it was compulsory to be out in industries with people like myself who've also done design before you graduate, because otherwise we find it a huge disconnect. We're actually not even able to offer employment because the disconnect is too big. I'm an employer, I'm not an educator, so I don't have the time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So I think it's come to a very interesting topic, which is again, you know, sitting on top of the WDO as a president. So I actually presented in South Africa in 2014 October when Cape Town was nominated as the World Design Capital. So at that time, if some of you were there, you probably have seen me there. I was not the president at that time, so I actually made a presentation on the manufacturing industry decline in South Africa. And I also presented a report where South Africa has slid to number 25 from somewhere up in the first 10. Again, this is no criticism. We are not in the politics. We are all in the business of creating beautiful objects. But going to the Ciro's point of, like we need to be really exploring the intersection between design, citizenship, and democracy, right? In terms of, how do we bring the needs? Each and every city or a country has to come to understand the value of the citizens' needs. Going back to the, whether your anatomy is good enough, and why do we go and not produce things? Because of to me, the worst word I can listen is ROI. That's also known as the return on investment. Right? So most of the time, designers hate that word because they'll say, oh, how much will it take to make this little remote control? 3 weeks, sir. 3 weeks, dude. I mean, I can't really get my ROI, do it in 3 hours. This is what the mandate comes to the designers, unfortunately, right? And then if you say I can use a banana fiber as a cover, I presented in another context of sustainability. As you can see this pen, I carry this very proudly. I've distributed more than 3,000 pins on my personal capacity. If I see you next time, I'll give you one, because we promote sustainability, and why not explore the local material, but there is no support from the policy, right? That's where we need to go together. It's like, it's not an easy thing. You need to go from the education level of asking them to support the local material, and also ask the government to support that industry. If you are able to produce local some materials, even though they may not be the most precious or most beautiful in the initial stages because people are learning, but we must support them. Otherwise, we are going to get, I don't want to name the countries or anything. Any country could be, getting a market by going under the price market or whatever, but that's the politics of the world, right? This is where, unfortunately, designers, they are told to shut up, because this is a problem. This is another context, right? How many designers, how many women designers are there in the board of directors of companies? How many even male designers in a male-dominated leadership team? How many designers whose title is a designer who studied industrial design are there in the company's, board of directors? You cannot even imagine. It's less than 0.1% or something, right? The only way you can be on the, I'm very proud to say I'm in the board of directors because it's my own company. I'm struggling like crazy, doesn't matter, but I'm my own boss. That's why most of the people, they want to work for themselves, not go into a company, because they will be shut down, very quickly, because their ideas will not be, if you don't match the ROI, then you have no place in that company. So I think collectively we need to bring that responsible municipal policy. If you're in a small village, then village to district, district to city, city to country. I mean, like I said, I'm no politician. I don't want to be a politician, but this is where the challenge ends. We can cry whatever we want to do, but I love the fact that, Shiru is making her own goods. Yeah, I mean, we need to make small change. Every small change will get added to a bigger change. Certainly, we believe in the process of change, and design can change, and we believe as designers we can create a better world. That's the motto of World Design Organization. So hope this helps answers your question, Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very deep conversation, and just carrying from the previous presenter, Beatrice Mwasi, she said that we change design into design business, right? So we have to understand the economy of scales, as you are mentioning, Srini. Juliet, now many countries are struggling to be back in terms of economic progression. I don't know if it's post-COVID, because I'm seeing some countries already in another phase of COVID, but how do we harness design as an opportunity for economic survival, economic revival, and economic growth of our countries and regions?
Thank you for that question, Michael. So there was something that was mentioned in the previous panel that kind of supports this ideology I have of going from local to popular. In the previous panel, one of the panelists mentioned that there needs to be a promotion of what is happening locally. There needs to be a usage and a knowledge of what we can do locally, and a reliance on local products. Now, most of our economies are shutting down because we import everything. There was something that was mentioned that I didn't know about Kenya, that you import toothpicks. Now, if we have to import toothpicks, something that my grandparents are from Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and you would be able to just cut a branch and just like fashion a toothpick. Why do we have to import toothpicks? Why are we becoming lazy? And I think there's something to be said in us becoming lazy. I lived in Kenya for a while. I did my high school there, and there used to be such a budding manufacturing industry. There were tanneries that were happening. Tea was tea is a major export. Fabrics were a major export. Flowers, food. What happened to these industries that we feel that we need to import from other countries when we can actually produce them ourselves? So it's this idea of going from local to popular, making that which is local popular. And what Shira is doing is absolutely fabulous, because she is saying, well, we can't find these products, we can't import them because of COVID or whatever restrictions, transport is at a halt. How do we create solutions for ourselves here? And then industries are then reformed. The tanneries that are sitting unused, how do we refurbish them? Because they exist within our towns and our cities lying dormant as white elephants, and we're not using them. who told us, who made us feel that that which we import is superior to that which we have, when that which we have is far more magical? So I don't know, Michael, if that answers your question, but it's strengthening the identity of who you are. Having that inherent pride in, I am a Kenyan, I'm a Tanzanian, I'm South African, I'm Indian, I'm West Ghanaian. Taking back that pride in self, taking back that pride in what you have and what you do locally, how you make your rice, be it, jollof, pilau, biryani, it's the same thing. But taking pride in that which is local, we will have no need to import anything, in all honesty. I'm still shocked at the importation of toothpicks, but, but we'll leave that to another discussion.
Thank you very much. Interesting. One of the things that was said in the Morocco chapter, and I think Srini did a presentation that time, was that we should not be, there's this made in Kenya, made in Africa, that we should not just be selling tags. We should be selling our values. And I would like to ask Shiro, how do we package our value in terms of designers from Africa? Because the term that was coined during that time by Ralista, one of the speakers of that meeting, was globalization, which is global and local. You're raising standards, not just, you just don't say made in Africa, or made in Kenya, but the standards should be international. Shiro.
Thank you for that. The question is, what does international standards mean, okay? Who are we benchmarking with? And who are we therefore then designing for? You understand? I think there's a big push by whoever they are to make sure that we feel inadequate by putting this term international standard. If you look at Africa, and I'll use the examples we had before of our body sizes being slightly different, right? We make baby cots, children's cots. If you look at the standards we use for our baby cots, the wood is stronger and tougher. Why? My son was born at almost 4 kilos. That's a heavy baby. The bed he needs to sleep in is kind of bigger than most other children around the world, okay? And that's an average sized kid in Kenya. If you look at the way we design our beds, our double-decker beds, that bed is not designed for 2 children as per international standards. Our decker beds comfortably should be sleeping 4 to 6 children because our family sizes are bigger. We need to redefine the standards for us. Okay, doesn't mean everybody has to fit in, but we have enough market on the continent. Africa is huge, huge. We do not have to be exporting to anybody else, but to ourselves. Designers need to start understanding this. When we look at shiny tiles in an interior, our sun is different. The glare is too much, but we just go and get, we say we're going to put really shiny tiles, really shiny granite. Why? You can barely see, right? Why do that? Why don't we have more matted or muted finishes in our spaces? Whose standards? Who has written these standards that we feel we must be playing within? For me, I have a problem. Juliet, not only toothpicks, we import pretty much everything. Breaks my heart. I really, really urge all designers listening in, everything from the shoe to the headscarf to the steering wheel I'm using while driving, everything is a product that has been designed. The glasses, the bottles, everything, the toilet handle, the switches, the sockets. How many of those do we actually design as designers? And then how many do we make? Or are we designing abstract things because they look good or because it's an industry that will absorb them, if not ourselves? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Interesting. Previously we had a conversation. This African design, this is the end day, but we still keep the conversations going. We had one in January, and one of the government representative, I think he's also here, Adams Namai. He was challenging us. Africans, we are very funny. We don't accept our own. He gave an example of whereby you refuse your house to be made from mud. But when you have a holiday, you go to Masai Mara or whichever area, and you sleep, you pay, you know, like so many
Much
dollars,
more.
yeah, to sleep in a mud house, but you refused your own house to be mud. And you also brought us the aspect of the local materials, how we are not exploiting local materials. Like he was giving an example, do we need really to paint our houses? Things to ponder. And as we have a few minutes left, I would like to our panelists just to give their last comments about our discussion here and what we expect past this pandemic, and how designers can be of great importance towards the future. In any order.
Juliet, you go first. I decide.
Ladies first. Michael, thank you so much for that question. And again, this has just been a great conversation, very organic, and I think quite necessary for us as designers to kind of pick our brains and hear what other designers are thinking. And, you know, I've been jotting down notes since this morning because I'm learning quite a lot. To take it back to kind of like the heading, what are the design trends post-COVID or during this COVID pandemic? As practicing interior architect and also as a director of the IID, there has been a lot of shift and realization that the brick and mortar concept of offices, shopping malls, and all of that is almost become moot point. And there's a lot of savings and a lot of realization in that there is saving in not being in a building. You know, who decided that we had to wake up, leave our homes and go somewhere and sit and do something that we can do at home with our own agency, with our own, you know, time management. And I think a lot of industries have shifted to that work from home modality because it's more sustainable for their employees in terms of their psyche, in terms of their well-being, and in terms of productivity. As a designer, it's so interesting that I'm not only getting projects that are local, I'm also getting projects that are international because I can do, design internationally. I don't actually have to be there in person in order to be able to do a project in Ivory Coast, in order to be able to do a project in Nairobi. And I think that kind of, that kind of myopic view is no longer existing within the design, spectrum. In terms of interior design and interior architecture, a lot of people are realizing that the homes that they were visiting and not necessarily living in are actually not sustainable to their psyche. And that choosing a home or choosing a space that serves you is more important than the car you drive, because you're not driving that car anymore. It's parked. Where are you going? Why aren't you investing in your home? So there are a lot of requests for refurbishment, a lot of requests for changing of surface materiality that can withstand a lot of sanitizer, and looking into more sustainable and ecological sanitizing solutions that are suitable for children, suitable for the elderly. There is opportunities for design that are happening within our reality, within our space. I was designing a lot of home offices, but only for the rich and elite. Now I'm designing home offices for my neighbors because they need that. And I'm finding it quite fascinating that the common man is realizing that they do need design solutions, and it actually doesn't cost a lot to live a comfortable life. So that has been the design trend so far, and what I predict to be in the future, just a real sensitivity to our needs and a real empathy for each other, and what people are bringing to the table and are able to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Srini?
Let's give it to Shiru. She's
Thanks, Shini. Hope to meet you one day. Really, if you look at pre, during, and I believe post-COVID, there needs to be a complete reset in how we think about our spaces. In Kenya, we know the Ministry of Education came under great scrutiny and laughs because they were recommending children to study outside. And I really applauded them, because if you're in the West, it has a different terminology and it's called sort of forest school, and it's packaged differently, right? And it's like a cool thing to be studying within the forest. But in Kenya, we see it as a bad thing, and it's not. Look at what Juliet has said. Our environment, like in Kenya, even Uganda, we have beautiful weather. Why are we in buildings? Why do we sit in buildings? I have not worked indoors for a year. I sit outside and work, and I just moved my table outside. So why did we think it was a joke? Why do we want children to be in 4 walls that are so hot? We need to be redesigning for an environment. Somebody told us you need to be in this rectangular space. I hate rectangular spaces. Why don't we design in the round the way we grew up traditionally? There was a reason why, from a ventilation, you talked about building materials. We use a lot of hay and thatch and stuff. Why have we changed this? Therefore, then it leads me into what we talk about affordable and sustainable housing. We'll never achieve that if we don't go back to the way our forefathers designed our homes, right? Somebody talked about paint. Why do we paint? What else could we keep using that we did traditionally? I feel there needs to be a huge reset in the way we think, the way we teach, and the way we appreciate that which is ours, because it actually comes more naturally to us. So we need to stop teaching only foreign design techniques, go back to the roots and reset who we are and who we design for. The market is huge on the continent of Africa. We haven't even scratched the surface. So good people, let's reset and let's grow the design and industry for the continent of
Africa. Thank you, Shiro. Very engaging from you, and we'll keep up the conversation. I know you have a lot of storytelling to share with us, and we'll keep you in the loop. Srini?
Yes, so I think one of the things I want to really assure all of us as designers and also users of design, we could never get disheartened by the challenges that we are facing. Because by choosing the design profession, what is a design? Design is solving a problem, right? We chose to be in an area where we want to solve the problem. So there's no point in getting frustrated on an issue that we are not able to solve. I would rather, go back and say, hey, let's find, another way to convince these people if they are not convinced. See, there are 2 aspects which we need to worry about. One is the technology keeps on changing. And if I was talking about a toy design, last week in India, through again, I can go to multiple countries on a day's time, thanks to the Zoom, right? So there we were talking about, how the toy should be more than the children. You have to convince the parents for buying the toy. If you're targeting a child who is, below the age of 10 years, that child, a female child or a male child does not get to decide what they want. Even though they may, you have seen most of the time they keep all these in the stores, they keep these, little toys dangling near the cash counter, and the children say, Mom, I want that, Mom, I want it. But Mom will just say, hey, shut up, and then just go. Maybe they'll give one candy. This is how the whole ethos is there, right? In terms of influencing the parents first and then the users, right? So that has to change, and we need to take it upon us to keep on changing. As far as the local value of materialism in terms of using local scenario, culture has a major value in design. If you go back to Don Norman's books and looking at how do we do the cognitive aspect of a society is resting in its culture. So if you really look at what really sells, people will eventually come back to their culture. Like you said, people are not using mud houses, but they are paying $3,000 to go and spend a week in Masai Mara, whereas they could stay in their homes, for $3,000. Perhaps you can build your own mud house and stay for the rest of your life, But they don't do that because the value of culture is not seen. So I would say, we need to worry about technology because, like Michael, you were asking, now Texas guys are struggling because, they refuse. That is pure politics. Remember I said designers cannot win politics. Designers cannot design politics, That's a different the set of design, which we don't learn. I would say if you pay attention to the culture and the value and go and convince, one by one, right? It's a tough one, but we have chosen the tough profession. So I would say, don't get disheartened. Why are people importing the toothpick, Juliet? Why are they importing? Because it's very attractive, it's very stylish, and if you're going to pull the little twig in your tree, first of all, you need to find a tree. You don't find it in your bathroom when you're trying to, do the, after eating, you want to clean your, dentures or whatnots. So then you really need to think in those scenarios of situation, not only the user, but also the situation. So that's why, they are able to do. But the same thing can be thought of. In fact, I always tell, America is a very good or bad example of over consumerism, right? So why do we need 24 brands of orange juice? We have forgotten the days when you used to grind those, by loading the oranges and peeling them and putting them, and you just keep on rotating, and the juice will come below in a glass, right? But then came all these, Tropicana with what do you call, with the pulp and without the pulp and citric added. All these kind of things came because they want to appeal to your choice. They want to appeal to your sense of, taste. So similarly, we need to do that as designers. If somebody is importing a toothpick, you take it as a challenge. I'm going to make the toothpicks with the local neem tree. But the challenge would be because of the production volumes, you need to go to Chiru to tell her, Chiru, you need to manufacture this for me for 2 cents a box, as opposed to, 4 cents these guys are importing for. So I think that's where the challenges are. And that's one of the reasons why people do not want to support the local industry. And then this is where, as I said, it's a pyramid of things, right? You need to go and convince the city makers to make the policy saying, if you are using 100% indigenous product, then you would be given some tax benefit or whatever. Somehow the policy has to come. Again, all of these policies were there. I mean, I was born in India and raised in India before I moved all around the world. There, you could not sell a car in India. It has to be only the old ambassador, which was called ambassador. And then we had Fiat, the old Fiat. Somehow they came into the country. These were the only 2 cars if you want to buy. But today there are 100 brands because they used to protect the industry by saying, if you want to buy a $12,000 car, you have to pay $24,000 as your import duty. So you kind of put the trade barriers, but over a period of time, the trade barriers have gone, so they are really importing. I think it's a circle, you keep on changing it. Now, again, we need to bring it back to protect the industry. So we need to really talk to the politicians, in a nice way and get them to do that. If they don't, then don't vote for them. The next party might help you.
Thank you, Srini. Very interesting approach of balanced growth, education policy and the production. And here in this meeting, we have government, so they are listening, and they will help us.
I hope I will get a visa to come to Kenya after this talk.
You're our president, so you're most welcome anytime.
Thank you.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the panelists. And apologies to Chesubira, we have taken 9 minutes extra. This is a very interesting conversation. I wish you could have borrowed 30 more minutes.
You are actually not out of time. You are supposed to go until 1:15, so you are within.
You have 5 more minutes.
You've got a few more minutes, so you can continue.
All right. Thank you. I was calculating with 1 a.m. So Trini, I hope it's not midnight in your place.
It's 2.
Well, it is past midnight. It is 2:15, 2:10 a.m. for me, and I have the next meeting at 5:30 a.m. So I'm going to catch a couple of hours of sleep, and then hopefully my alarm will wake me up, and then I have a 5:30 meeting. So I at least have to get about 5.
Please allow us to borrow your 10 minutes for now.
No problem, no problem.
All right, Shiro, you have your hands raised.
Yeah, just to follow what Srini was saying, can you imagine if we had demand, if designers demanded that, for example, toothpicks or door handles, if the designers said all of them would be sourced in Kenya, in Africa, that leads us to have to manufacture at scale. When we manufacture at scale, A, we improve, but number two, we bring down the cost. But it's too expensive to make one door handle, right? But if everybody said for any interiors project or development we're doing, offices, schools, etc., all door handles must come from Kenya, from Africa, that then starts tipping the scale. But for as long as we don't do that, we remain with this thing where everybody says, but it's cheaper to get it from China. The same for taps. Why don't we make our own taps? It baffles me, the things. But then again, if designers said, no, we're only specifying made in Kenya, made in Africa products, that leads to scale, scale leads to lower production costs, and we change the game. Guys, it's not, we don't even need politicians for this. We need to drive the demand ourselves as the creative industry that taps into the manufacturing, that taps into the raw material. You do not need politicians for this. We are more than them. That's all I wanted to end by saying.
Chiru, I know that you will be the next mayor of your city. I know.
Why
that.
not president? Why not president? Why are you giving me mayor?
You need to be known in the corridors of politics before you can become president, right? So,
well, don't worry, we make
president.
enough noise. We make enough noise there. Now the noise they're making is to designers as well.
That's true. That's very true. My best wishes for that.
Thank you, my dear. Thank
then
you.
I can
see,
very
we'll
proudly, then I can proudly say, I am the one who told Chiru to be standing for the president, you know. And when you become the president, I can very well say, hey, do you know who I am? I know the president, you know.
You know, not only will we give you a visa, we'll even give you a Kenyan passport. Don't worry about that.
Wow. Thank you. I love you.
See you soon.
Thank you, Shiro. Shiro, you should join Kute in design activism. Very nice. I think that's
Thank you. Coming soon. And please, I welcome all of you to our experiential retail launch on the 6th and the 7th of March in Lavington. I'm sure we can share more details in the email. But welcome to a new way of design thinking and retail experience.
Thank you. I would like just to pull Des. I know he has put a lot of comments on the chat. Des.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes. We are talking about economic revival of Africa using design. What are your thoughts?
I think I must just go back to the panelists on this one. You know, we are the most innovative people in the world. We have one of the youngest populations. We have 1.1 billion people on this continent. We are huge and we are powerful. And I think we need to use that leverage as designers to actually make a difference. And I completely agree with I think that COVID has taught us that we need to be more humane. We need to move beyond product. And we need to actually understand that design is an incredibly powerful tool that can make such a difference to the world. So in a very quick, brief summary, that's what I would say is that I believe that we are, I think that the thing about designers is that we have an ability to solve problems and to actually understand process. And that makes us different to, unbelievably, it makes us different to a lot of people that think on in a lateral way. And that's what makes us so powerful. It's because we have that ability to think differently and to actually go through that process, go through the problem solving, use the service design techniques, use the design thinking techniques. all of that makes us great. And I think that the panel has really brought that home. It's been an amazing session for me. I've really enjoyed this. And thank you all. It's wonderful to share these things as well. It's also wonderful to know that, you know, and I agree with Juliet, how amazing is it that we can now talk to each other in our home offices across the world, be it that poor Srini is sitting over there at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm sitting here, you know, ahead, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm happy. It's only 12 o'clock here now in the middle of the day. So, but it is amazing that we have this. And it's also what I've found with the lockdown is that we as designers have actually become a lot more open to discussion and to actually sharing ideas, because I think we've all suffered under lockdown. Obviously, it's not been easy to, you know, mentally, it's quite challenging. And that's something that we must also consider in design. How are we going to now deal with the post-mental problems that people are going to be suffering, and then the suicide rates are going up around the world, et cetera, maybe that's something else that we also need to consider. And because we actually understand people, definitely understand people in Africa, and we are very accommodating, can we not actually put our brains together now to also put that on the table as something for discussion? How through design can we actually improve the quality of mental life or mental health for everyone? So yeah, that's how I would sum this one up personally.
Thank you very much. As we have been discussing African design for the past 2 months with the different sessions, we always conclude with action points, okay? And I would like to ask the panelists, what do we hold you accountable for as we close? That in the next meeting, we'll ask you as Srini, what have you done for the design that we are talking about moving forward?
Well, I've been on a daily basis, right? We've been doing, we have been exciting design communities like the one that we are talking today, and asking them to do things that they were not thinking of doing. And we support them on almost a daily basis in terms of, you know, bringing the design values. And we initiate dialogues, you know, with so many programs that we have at WTO. And as far as me as a designer and as a design profession of my company, so we try and do our bit in terms of maintaining the sustainability and trying to see what else can we do to create, you know, opportunities for designers, because design industry is struggling. When I say design industry, it's not the big companies that are struggling, it's the small studios, those who have chosen to be working for themselves are the ones they are literally going out of business. You know, basically a lot of them have left design industry, from my personal knowledge of, you know, design studios around the world, because they are not able to get work from companies that they were giving them the business. So I think that's what we need to keep changing to see how can we do. I mean, the cost is eroded. You know, if you're charging $100, it's come down to like $40, and below 40 if you're doing. I have a saying, right? Just like Africans, Indians also use a lot of proverbs, right? So if I have to die of hunger, I'd rather die not doing anything. I don't want to die after working hard for you and not making any money, right? I'll be happy to die of hunger, but just by listening to songs and do something else rather than struggling, you know? So that's where, you know, the threshold comes to a certain level below which you cannot afford, you know, to do any work, because you're committing to some value, right? And that value cannot come below a certain point of the value that you might get it. And that's one of the reasons why the design industry is kind of looking downwards, you know, and we need to boost their, you know, ego in terms of, you know, their happiness index has to grow, because then you will worry about, you know, other things. So I think until then, the societies, the communities, the design industries, everybody has to come together. If you talk again next month, no harm, we should talk, because people have very low retention, you know, half the thing that we speak will be not retained. So we need to talk again. So we need to keep on boosting the industry to go up, so that, you know, at some point in time, they will be where they were in the past.
Thank you very much. Juliet, what do we hold you accountable for? 1 minute?
So 1 minute. So I'm touching, I have touch points in various aspects of the industry, but in terms of the IID, we have several mandates that we put in place from 2020 to 2021. And one of the biggest mandates was within the kind of cross-pollination between various design industries. I think now we are realizing that you can't, an interior designer cannot work in isolation. There are, artists, product designers, furniture designers, industrial designers, and collaboration breeds better products for our clients. So there is a strong collaborative nature that's happening within, the IID, and that's quite encouraging, even amongst designers. As someone who is currently heavily entrenched in design research and understanding what the definition of African design is, does it exist? Or is it more like split up into the local, contextual aspects of what Africa is? My personal mandate with regards to that is really understanding our value as designers on the continent, promoting that value as worthy globally, and not only in just saying it, but in doing it in kind of the quality of work that we put out there as a continent. So that's where I will say I'll lay my accountability in.
Thank you, Juliet. Shiro, I think you have so many things that will hold you accountable for, including all the bad importations in the country.
Well, I will also hold you to account. So for me, it's to continue being unapologetically intentional about first putting Africa on her own map, rewriting her story. Because for as long as we don't do that, it's the hunter who keeps writing our story. I commit to being more involved in the design fraternity, locally and globally, and for changing the narrative about Africa is about handicrafts, but Africa is about trade and industry, but we also must trade with each other. I hope to connect with a couple more designers from this platform. There's no excuse why we don't actually source from each other and work together as a continent. It is embarrassing. So my commitment is to be more intentional about who we work with, bring to the game, and literally rewrite our story.